disaster doesn't only create loss of home, possessions, and community. These stressors play an individual at risk for emotional and physical health problems. Stress reactions after a disaster look very much like the common reactions seen after any type of trauma. At such a time, one non-profit works with school districts to rebuild classrooms, provide school supplies, and ensure that students are able to continue their education after a disaster. I am very pleased to have Craig Floyd, co-founder of Restore Education After Disasters, also known as READ, which stands for, of course, Restore Education After Disasters. They assist students to a sense of normalcy following any disaster by providing backpacks, school supplies. In the past 2 years, READ has provided over 5,000 backpacks to students in need. Welcome to the podcast, Craig.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You do wonderful work. Nobody has ever thought of children per se after a trauma, in my knowledge at the moment. So, what was the incident? Was there any particular incident that inspired you to found this?
Absolutely. I am the head of a private school here in Southern California. I actually went to school here as a student. And in 2017, I took over as the head. And in my third month of my headship, the Thomas Fire ravaged Ventura County into Santa Barbara County. Our school, we lost half of our campus in the fire. We're a boarding school, so I lost a girls' dorm, a science building, some other classrooms. My house was damaged. And so that happened in early December. We shut down school for 2 weeks before going on Christmas break. And when the president of the school and myself returned to campus and saw the devastation, we vowed that we would reopen on time that January. So through the tireless effort of myself and others and contractors, we did get the school reopened a month later with no loss of program. We had different facilities, but no loss of program. And so everything I learned through that process, I felt I needed to do something to give back to everyone. And I didn't know what that was. And so during that summer of 2018, my son and I were driving cross country to take him back to college in Alabama. And we heard an interview on the radio. And it was Kenny Chesney, the country singer, doing an interview talking about a foundation he started to help rebuild the U.S. Virgin Islands after Hurricane Irma, I believe. And as we heard that, my son and I looked at each other and go, this is what we have to do. We have to start do a foundation nonprofit to help schools rebuild after natural disasters. Well, by the time I returned to Ojai, it was time for school to start again, so I didn't have the ability to get started. So over the next year and a half, I kept seeing disasters happening. Frequently saw pictures of children sitting in tents with their parents and not really being back in school. Finally, in December of 19, the hurricanes hit Puerto Rico in back-to-back weeks, an earthquake, and it's like, okay, I have to do this now. And so contacted a friend of mine who actually helped me during the fire, and we decided, let's make this happen. And through my research, much like you mentioned, there's nothing like this going on right now in the world. So the other organizations that help after disasters, they do stuff like pre-kindergarten, just some daycare type things. They take care of basic necessities. There is nothing that we have found yet that actually gets in and helps school children following disasters, or can provide assistance to schools in helping rebuild. We have not had the opportunity to help in that capacity yet as far as a rebuild, but that is what we're gearing up for. But as you mentioned, in the past 2 years, we've done over 5,000 backpacks to help children throughout the United States, and including some Ukrainian refugee students as well. So that is probably my proudest moment so far, is to help and impact 5,000 students with their schooling.
That's quite a number, and that's amazing work that you're doing. Now my question is, when you are providing the supplies, obviously these children are from different grades, they're from different working levels or academic levels. So how do you cater to those? Is it something that you just give them something that is basic that needs to be done, or?
Right. So so right now we're handling the basic school supplies for them. So we have two different style backpacks we put together. We put one together for basically kindergarten through fifth grade, and then we have a second one for sixth grade through high school. So it has the basic supplies in there, pencils, pens, crayons, highlighters, notebooks, art journals, glue sticks, scissors, rulers. So depending on which of the backpacks is going, it will depend on what they do receive. But it's been pretty incredible getting all this taken care of and done.
Right. So I would assume that there's a lot of digital learning happening in schools nowadays. Is that true? So in that case, is there a need for tablets or those kind of things? Because stationary,
There
yes.
can be. Yeah, there can be. So far we've been dealing, truly with, the basic supplies as I mentioned. We just sent some supplies out to Shawnee, Oklahoma, who was hit by a tornado last week. And when I reached out to their school district, the woman I was talking to, she was asking for the basic supplies for elementary age students. Well, their middle school suffered damage and is closed for the remainder of the school year. So all their students are doing online for the remainder of their school year. And so they've been able to work to take care of their needs right now. But clearly, as more and more districts are impacted through disasters, which are happening more frequently, there's going to be a greater need to look at tablets and things of that nature to be able to help those students in need. The interesting thing about us so far is we've primarily helped after hurricanes and tornadoes so far. And so obviously there's massive loss, and as we've been reaching out to districts, sometimes we don't hear from districts. And so it's been real hit and miss of who we've been able to help. While I've been reaching out regularly to districts, we hope to be able to increase that, get word out more to people of who we are and what we're doing to help get more donations into us to provide greater assistance to everybody.
And do you get people to help very often? I mean, is it easy to request something and you get to help immediately?
Well, so far it's been friends and family primarily that have been our donors. As we've been growing our donor pool, it's primarily been coming from those resources. As we've been reaching out, trying to apply for grants or reach out to corporations that help, for instance, for crayons or pencils, they've had other avenues to distribute some of these items. And so it's been a struggle for us to get things. So we're just getting grassroots donations, turn around, buying stuff online with Amazon, and then we're able to generate a large volunteer workforce. I have about 25 adults that I can contact to do volunteer service. But also, working at the private school that I am, I was able to put out a call to ask students if anybody wanted to volunteer. And this past January, we had 40 students, 12 faculty, some former faculty come together and put together over 2,000 backpacks, in which we turned around that next day in January and drove up to Northern California and delivered 1,300 backpacks to flood victims in 2 different locations. And so I have a pool to assemble them. It's just a matter of getting the funding to help
Yes, you
cover
do.
all the supplies.
And I'm sure these people are very happy to do what they are doing because it gives a great sense of satisfaction, of course. Let's take a break to understand what Chezuba is. Everyone at some point ponders on how this beautiful life can be made more meaningful. Maybe you're a leader trying to enhance your employees' experience at your organization. Or you already work for the community and seek volunteers with state-of-the-art skills to strengthen your nonprofit. Whatever your situation, know that you can make a difference. Chezuba began with this very vision, a vision to facilitate every skill and every passion in the world in meeting a social need. Corporate volunteering has several benefits for both businesses and organizations. In parallel, experienced and enthusiastic volunteers join NGO workers, enabling them to serve the community more effectively. Chezuba offers everyone looking to add purpose and meaning to their lives a chance to connect or volunteer virtually with nonprofit organizations from over 100 countries around the world. Visit www.chezuba.net and explore opportunities to find meaning. Chezuba, your platform to do good. And now, back with our guest.
Absolutely.
My question to you would be, would you think of collaborating with some kind of corporates or companies which are into production of, pencils, crayons, or whatever else, and
Absolutely.
collaborate with them.
Yeah, we would love to. When we started Read, I did reach out to all the major brands and players in that area, and to an organization, I was turned down. Primarily, I believe because we were brand new and unknown, and no one understood what we were doing.
Oh,
And many of them had other avenues in which they were dispersing things. There's a couple of organizations out there that will take large donations, from Crayola and those different organizations, and
right.
then resell them at a discounted price rather than necessarily giving them away. And there may be some other options, but so that's been a struggle so far. But we're continuing to reach out and try to get those type of partnerships with corporations to be able to make it a little bit easier for us to do this work.
Well, I hope some corporation is listening to this podcast, and I hope they come forward and help you out.
Absolutely.
I would think that's the best way of advertising, isn't it?
It is. It is. To be able to get the word out and spread the word on a wider platform is huge for us. We've had some small newspaper articles written locally for us, and it's generated a little bit of momentum locally for us. But we're still looking for a greater impact. We have helped students in 10 different states now, and
That's cool.
California only became a state we helped back in January. So for the previous
Right.
2 years, it was primarily the southern states. It was Florida, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, that area. And so, on social media, I'm seeing some more people paying attention to us down in those areas because they get hit more frequently. And so, just from the continually getting our name out there, I think we're going to start to see some financial benefit from those areas, being able to donate to us. But at the same time, it'd really take some type of an angel donor to come through, someone with some big pockets that typically wants to help disaster relief, help education, help young children. We're a one-stop shop for that. And so, if there's
Yeah.
anyone out there that falls in that category, please contact us.
Yes, absolutely. Please come forward.
Yeah.
Do you think, Craig, do you think that in the aftermath of a disaster, education is the last to get any sort of help?
I do. It's amazing how that happens, and it's overlooked. Everybody. I mean, and it's not intentional by any means. The first responders, the first response
Right.
teams they need to help deal with the basic needs of everybody. Because typically there's loss of power, loss of gas, water. They can't get to stores, those type of things. So those responses have to deal with those issues. But what they forget is the parents, the adults, they have to then go through and deal with insurance, deal with FEMA,
Yes,
deal with these other organizations that take time. And I'm sorry, but it's not easy to take your 6-year-old with you to go stand in line to get
absolutely.
food or do insurance. And so after seeing that, like I said, with Puerto Rico, it's like, okay, we need to do something. And as we started this, our first response was to a tornado in Alabama. It was nearby where my son was going to college. We sent him some backpacks. He just drove over there, sight unseen to anybody. And we were able to get some backpacks in their hands. Finally, in December of 20 is when the large tornado hit Arkansas, Tennessee, and Kentucky. And so it took about 3 weeks' time for me to make, or about 2 weeks, to make contact with the school districts to figure out what their needs were. And then my partner Anthony and I, we drove cross country the day after Christmas. We had 1,000 backpacks in the back of our truck, and I had 2 deliveries set up when we left. But I knew there was more that was needed. So I'm working the computers, we're driving cross country. And we get there almost 3 weeks after the fact. One school that we talked to, they had actually got so many supplies donated to them for personal needs, so blankets, bedding and clothing, that they filled up their school, that they couldn't even have school in the building if they wanted to.
Oh,
And
that's
so they're going, okay, well, I wish we could have talked to them in advance and say, hey, you need to save your space. We didn't, but it's something they're learning. But they weren't focusing on kids at all. And as we're driving around these communities, we see kids sitting on the sidewalk, hanging out, and not being engaged. And it is so important because through these, they don't have they can't go with their friends. They can't go see their friends because that house has been damaged or destroyed. They might be
Yeah.
living in a temporary facility separated. And so the only way to have that social interaction is to bring them back together. Our long-term goal is to be able to go in with temporary classroom facilities, whether they be tents or trailers, set them up, get kids back into school rather quickly to allow the parents time to do their own recovery and to begin to get them back in, back into the classroom to start learning again. But you can't diminish what they just went through. To many kids, especially younger ones, they don't know what a tornado is. They don't know why their house was just damaged. They don't know why there's no school. They don't understand that. So we want to go in, get classrooms operational, and teach them first what just happened, and why it happened, and let them have time with their friends, and sort of set up a daycare, so to speak, for a day or two.
Yeah,
with
it's
these
a sense of normalcy.
But then start back in with instruction. With a lot of these, if you think about the high school kids as juniors or seniors, their junior year is the most important to get their schoolwork done to apply for college. Seniors, they have to get their college applications in. They're taking, in many cases, they're taking the SATs and the ACTs, and that doesn't stop for them. That has to continue. And so if you get hit in the fall, these kids need to have that education going on to keep them prepared and moving on and ready for college. And it's overlooked dramatically. And so we want to be able to change that and reshape the thinking. And some of that will take getting more engaged with Red Cross and some of these other agencies that are involved there. When we responded to Northern California in January, we were able to make contact with Red Cross because one of their Red Cross members came out and saw us when we were passing out backpacks. And she passed our name on to her supervisor, who went to their supervisor. So I've been able to make some contact here in Southern California. And the next step really is to get back talking to Red Cross saying, hey, can you talk nationally to the rest of the supervisors to be able to respond to these situations as they occur?
Yeah, that's wonderful. Well, Craig, I wish you, actually it's ironic, I don't wish you more of this happening, but I definitely wish all the people who are volunteering and all the people who are doing this great work to continue doing that, and thank you on behalf of the entire community and the world for what you are doing. It's amazing. Nobody ever thinks of students and classrooms after, obviously, the basic needs of food, shelter, and water.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, so thank you for doing that, and it was lovely having you on this podcast.
Thank you. I'm glad I was able to talk about what we're doing, and hopefully your listeners will clue into what we're doing and reach out and become a part of our service. Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.